after. I want to speak. I understand that I missed DPS yesterday, but I want to speak about your visibility of the issue in which media reporting had it that Chinese authorities were inside the Parliament's email server for a period of time after 2011. And then if we can just speak briefly about that, and then I want to ask about the Renewable Energy Target Review.
The RET review.
Chalk and cheese.
Yep.
Let's start with the security breach, or the alleged security breach.
Senator, I'm not aware that the department had visibility of that, but Dr McCarthy may be able to.
I guess I'm putting it to you in your capacity. The Prime Minister's office maintains responsibility for cyber security. I would have thought a breach of parliamentary email servers would have fit that mandate fair and square. Go ahead, Mr.
Senator
McCarthy.
Margot McCarthy, Associate Secretary, National Security and International Policy. I don't want to go into details about that matter, and of course it's a matter that is the responsibility of the Department of Parliamentary Services, but we, in our role, we did have awareness of that matter, Senator.
Who's we?
The Department of the Prime Minister and Cabinet.
Yeah, ASD tipped you off? All I've got is media reporting, because I wasn't in the Cabinet in 2011, recognising this happened under the previous government. Possibly changes of staff within the PMO as well, almost certainly.
I'd need to take that on notice, Senator.
What, that there have been changes of staff in the Prime Minister's office?
No, the question you asked me, Senator, about how we became aware.
Okay, could you take that on notice? When you became aware? And I guess what I'm most interested in is who was then made aware, and why was the rest of this building not made aware? If we were with a commercial internet service provider, generally, industry lets you know when there's been a massive data breach. If somebody's gained unauthorised access to your email, I'm very interested to know why the Parliament's email servers don't operate the same way.
Senator, I can take on notice your question about the date of PM&C's awareness, but the third question you asked, it seems to me, is more appropriately directed to Parliamentary Services, given that, as I understand it, they administer the IT system.
This is a policy question, not an administration question. What's the Australian government's policy as regards security of data traffic and communications for Australian MPs and staff?
Well, that's a very broad question. It's a policy question, so I suppose it should be directed to myself. I would have thought that I can take it on notice for you and give a considered answer as to what the full detailed policy is, but I would have thought it would be ultimately to make it the most efficient as possible and as protected as possible.
But it wasn't. Senator Abetz, you were in opposition at the time of the breach.
You asked what the government's policy is?
Yeah.
Well, we are the government.
You are the government,
yeah.
And it's wonderful. Everybody's enjoying it a lot.
Good.
But Senator Abetz says you were an opposition MP, as I am, at the time of the data breach. Does it bug you that your email and staff was compromised?
Sorry?
Does it bug you at all that your email...
Bug you, I like that, yeah. Good word.
Your staff's...
Look, clearly, if that's occurred, it is a matter of concern to anybody, everybody that may have been impacted.
Well, it has occurred. Unless, Ms McCarthy, you're denying those media reports. If they're not correct, I'll take them off the table. Were Chinese authorities inside Australian Parliament's email servers for more than a year?
Senator, I'm not going to go into detail about that matter.
Not after detail. Just black and white confirmation would be helpful. It's all over the media. It's not like you're giving up national security secrets.
Well, it's media assertions.
Yeah, which I'm here to corroborate, if you can.
Well, given the nature of these things, we need to make sure, we have to be very circumspect as to what we say around these matters of security.
The circumspection's all very well now. This whole building got hacked. And if it had been iiNet or a commercial service provider, users would have been informed. Why weren't we? It's not a national security matter.
Senator, as I've said, the IT system you're referring to is administered, as I understand it, by the Department of Parliamentary Services, and so I suggest that your question's better directed to that department.
So you think the department should set that policy and not the government that has, or the PMO, the Prime Minister's Office, that has responsibility for cyber security? Or has that been transferred in the interests of Australian parliamentarians to DPS?
What I can indicate to Senator Ludlam is, and I'm just being reminded by some very helpful staff, that my email was personally compromised by this breach, that I expressed concern to DPS and asked for urgent action, which was undertaken, and my staff then met with DPS on the day it occurred. Senator Scott Ryan raised the issue with DPS at the time, and I understand DPS sent an email to all users at the time.
Can you date that for us, Senator Abetz?
Pardon?
Could you just date that correspondence
Look,
for
I
us?
can't, because as I said, a very helpful staff member is sending me these emails. I confess I'd forgotten that any of this history, but it's embedded in his mind, and he has kindly provided that advice. But in fairness, it is DPS's responsibility to provide the system, and one assumes the security around that system.
All right. But can I just confirm, Senator Abetz, the correspondence you're referring to there doesn't relate to the last couple of months since the media got a hold of a story. You're taking us back a couple of years to the time of the breach, or shortly after? You want to confirm that later?
I understand that's the case, but my staff member listening in hopefully will shoot an email to confirm.
All right. Let's put that on hold and see if they come back just to within the nearest month. Would be helpful.
Senator Ryan and others raised this at estimates a year or so ago, is my staff member's recollection.
All right. I'll go back to the transcripts and see exactly what was on the public record. Could you just disclose for us now, if you know, or maybe you'd rather take that on notice as well, either as a policy question, Senator Abetz, or Ms McCarthy, if you will, what the current government's policy is, given that this massive breach occurred? I can't think of an example of something as significant as that happening in another legislature anywhere in the world. What has happened since then to strengthen security on these networks that we're all dependent on, and whether, if such a breach occurs in future, we would be notified?
Senator, again, the responsibility for the security of this network rests with the Department of Parliamentary Services. What the government endeavours to ensure is that, regardless of whether it's the private sector or government organisations or individuals, have information available to them about security threats, about cyber security threats. The Computer Emergency Response Team, for example, works with the private sector. The Australian Signals Directorate provides information and advice to government. Ms Connick might like to expand on that, but there's no specific policy relating to legislatures, Senator. It's broader policy about information being made available to individuals, business, government organisations, to help the owners of the information and the owners of those systems to secure those systems.
I'm not sure that happened in this case. And just for context, in the last Parliament, before the change of government last September, there was mandatory data breach notification legislation before the Senate. It fell over. I believe it hasn't been reintroduced. I don't know, Senator Abetz, whether you want to inform us, or that might be completely outside your portfolio as to whether that's still government policy. But the idea was, I thought it had cross-party support. It's the reason I raise it.
Look,
is
it's
that
in the attorney's portfolio,
AJ's,
I'm
okay.
advised, but I'm not sure as to its status.
Okay. That was going to put the onus on commercial service providers to notify their clients if there had been a data breach and their private materials had been compromised. And I'm presuming that wouldn't have applied to the Parliament. I'm now trying to find out what protocols apply. And you're saying I should chase DPS? It's not a cybersecurity matter that the PMO has visibility of.
That is, yeah, I think
that
that
where
would be
we've-
our advice, yeah.
All right. Okay, I will